Welcome in, Shield Brothers and Shield Maidens, to Shield's Rest. Today, we're going to be diving into the heart of what makes Lancers so unique, the mech structures. Whether you're piloting an Everest or fine-tuning your Death's Head, understanding how your mech is built is key to dominating the battlefield. And in this video, we'll break down everything you need to know, from armor and reactors to systems and mounts. So grab your toolkit and let's mount up. First time watching, consider subscribing. We've got a lot of good stuff going on. We're covering Lancer, covering DC-20, covering Daggerheart, and plenty more on the way. But with that, let's jump into your mech skills. So this is going to be the acronym HASE. That's H-A-S-E. First up is hull. This is the durability of your mech. So this is piloting those big, bulky mechs. You'll use hull to smash through obstacles, grapple other mechs, things like that. You also have agility. This is going to be your fast and evasive mechs. You're going to use this to chase or pursue targets, maybe hide, move silently, things like that. Then you have your systems. This is your electronic warfare capabilities. So when you're infiltrating like hardened or powerful electronic systems or targets, or scanning or analyzing for information, you're going to be using your systems skill. And then last up, we have engineering. Engineering is for strong and effective reactors, your support systems and supplies, things like that. So when you're trying to withstand extreme conditions, maybe pushing your mech past their limit, even using a reactor, maybe like a forge, right? All of those things that deal with the reactor of your mech is going to use that engineering skill. So your mech skills are what you use instead of triggers for your pilot, as well as your mech saves. These are the stats you'll use whenever your mech has to make a save. And then there'll be some additional bonuses that we'll get into later that I'll pull from these skills here. All right, and with that, I want to talk a little bit about how modular the mechs are. So as you increase your license level, which is the level of your pilot and your mech, you'll gain a license rank to spend on a mech or a license. Each license has 3 ranks, and they must be bought in order. So you go from license level 1, 2, 3 for that mech. Each rank is going to unlock, various systems, weapons, things like that. And at rank 2 of a given license is when you will get the frame of that mech. And then finally, as you kind of unlock those weapons and systems and things like that from the mech, you can plug and play most of them onto any other frame that you acquire as you're building up your mech and leveling up. But by default, at license level 0, you will start with a GMS frame, specifically the Everest. As you kind of go into different books and all that, you'll get more frames that you can pick from. But by default, you're going to start with the GMS Everest frame. All right, and then getting into the structure itself. First, we're going to talk about the frame. So the frame determines the size, the armor, the mounts available, and the amount of system points that you have access to. This is essentially what your pilot is piloting. This is the mech that you're carrying around. And the frames, like I said earlier, are unlocked at rank 2 of any given license as you're progressing. And then getting into size. This is how large in grid spaces your mech character or an object takes up on the battlefield. It's kind of an abstract measurement. There's no like size 1 equals this or anything like that. But the sizes do range from 1/2, which is your humanoids, and even some mechs that are more just like kind of armor built around you instead of a giant piece of machinery you're piloting, all the way up to size 3. So that's taking up 3 spaces on the map. But most of your mechs are going to be size 1. All right, and then next up is armor. This is pretty simple. It's just reducing incoming damage by the amount that your armor is. So if an attack manages to hit you, say you have 3 armor, you'll reduce that damage by 3, and you'll take whatever's left, excluding some special damage types that we'll get into a little bit later. But this will never go above 4. That'll be the cap for your armor. All right, and then we have our mounts. So these are used to attach weapons to the frame, and the frame will determine the type of mount you have and the amount of mounts that you have. So not every mech has the same amount. It will determine the size of your weapon. However, you can always add a smaller weapon to a larger mount. So to get into them, the types that you have are main, heavy, an auxiliary, a main auxiliary, or flexible. And to briefly kind of go over those, with a main mount, you can get a main or an auxiliary weapon. A heavy can have heavy main or auxiliary. An auxiliary will take up to 2 auxiliary weapons. You can have a main and auxiliary weapon mount, so that will take either main and auxiliary or 2 auxiliaries. A flexible will have either a main or up to 2 auxiliaries as well. And then two kind of special cases are going to be your integrated mount. These are designed for specific weapons. They are built onto the frame, so they'll typically come with the frame. They cannot be destroyed, removed, replaced, or anything like that. So they're kind of like free weaponry that you'll have on the frame itself. And then you'll also have your super heavy weapon. So this doesn't have a specific mount for that weapon. However, it will require both a heavy mount and any mount of another size. So it just takes up two mounts, one of which have to be heavy. All right, and then next up we have system points. Now this is going to be a set number from the frame side of it. You'll spend this to add systems and abilities onto your mech, as well as some heavier weapons may also require some system points. But this is increased by your grit score, which is your half your character's level rounded up. So at level 0, we're not going to have any grit. That comes into play once you level up, as well as for every 2 system points that you have from those haste skills, the system skill, for every 2 points there, you'll gain an additional system point. So that's a way you can add more onto your mech there. All right, and then next up we have the core system. So these are powerful, unique abilities specific to the frame that you have. They cannot be transferred to other frames or that. They come with the frame. These are going to be consumed by a core power. Now you can only ever have one core power at a time. You can't bank them or save them for later, save extras for later. But you gain these at the start of every mission whenever you complete a full repair, which is kind of like a long rest if you're coming from like D&D and things like that. Or if you have a generous GM and wants to reward you for doing, maybe a cool story beat, or you solved a problem in a crazy and unique way, they might grant you a core power as well. All right, and then we're going to get into base statistics. So those haste points do translate into some of the statistics that your mech will have. First up is going to be your hit points and your structure. So for your hit points, this is going to increase by 2 for every 1 point of hull that you have. The way hit points and structure kind of work with each other is that when your HP reaches 0, you will take 1 structure damage, and then your health will reset. When you take that structure damage, there is a structure damage check in the rule book that you will roll on. You will roll a d6 for every point of structure that you are missing, and you will follow the effects that you roll, right? Rolling great, your mech kind of survives the source of damage, and you keep on trucking through all the way to your mech being, maybe stunned or down for a turn, or maybe even destroyed if you roll enough of the 1s, because you'll be rolling d6s. So this is a important thing you have to be balancing while you're in combat. As you start taking more and more structure damage, you might want to, try and find cover or change your tactics a little bit. But most mechs are going to come with 4 structure, and once you hit that 0 structure, your mech is destroyed, and you'll have to acquire a new one. Which is fairly easy in this game. The game assumes that you will always have access to your mech, whether that be, a backup in reserve or a 3D printer at your kind of a base of operations, something like that. So you don't have to worry too much about like the sourcing and all that, but do know that if your structure hits 0, your mech is destroyed for that combat. All right, and then next we have the repair cap. So you'll increase your repair cap for every 2 points of hull. And this is kind of like currency. Maybe think of it kind of like hit die again from D&D to heal and repair your mech. So you will spend these, spend a repair to fix up the structure damage for your mech. And once you run out of those, you'll have to finish up a long rest or a full repair to get those back. All right, and then next up we have speed. So this is a increase for every 2 points of agility you have. And this number is just the amount of spaces that you can move on a turn, or you can use with a boost action, which again, you can think of it kind of like a dash from D&D. And then we have evasion. This will also increase by your agility. This is a 1-for-1 increase. And this is your defense against ranged and melee attacks. So think of it kind of like your armor class. This is the number that your opponents will have to beat to hit your mech. Next up, we have sensors. This is the distance and spaces that your mech can detect enemies and use their tech systems and attacks. So unless the target is hidden in any way, as long as they're within the range of your sensors, you'll know where they are, even though you don't necessarily see them. They might be behind cover or anything, but as long as they're not trying to hide or they are successfully hidden, you will know where they are if they're within your sensors. All right, and then next up we have tech attack. This is the stat that you will use to make your system checks if you're trying to, like I said earlier, invade or do kind of like that electronic warfare side of the thing. This is a 1-for-1 increase with the system stat, and you will also use grit that will also factor into your tech attack as well. So at level 0, it's not giving you any bonus, but as you level up, that will increase as well. And then we have E defense. So this is increase for every 2 points of system that you have. And this is your defense against the electronic and even guided weapons and systems. This is what you'll use as your armor class, quote unquote, for those things, along with your evasion, blocking those melee and ranged attacks, those physical attacks. All right, and then we have heat cap and stress. So these function very similarly to HP and structure. Your heat cap is a 1-for-1 increase with your engineering stat. Now, heat is caused by various tech attacks, or even some systems, like some mech frames, will cause you heat damage in exchange for an ability or maybe more damage, a special attack, things like that. When you exceed your heat cap, you will take 1 stress and then reset your heat back down to 0. And then when you take stress, you'll make a stress damage check, just like you made a structure damage check for your HP hitting 0. And similarly, most mechs will have 4 stress, and when you hit 0 stress, your mech will be destroyed. So again, another stat you'll have to be monitoring while you're in combat. And if you notice you're taking a lot of heat unnecessarily, like I said, some mechs plan around that and they have a little bit of protection against it. But again, if you're taking a lot of heat, you're taking a lot of stress damage, try and find some cover before your mech is toast. And then last up, you have your save target. So this is what an opponent must match or beat to resist the save that you cause against them. So think of it kind of like a save DC from like D&D and such. Next up, we're going to talk about core bonuses. So these are permanent improvements that apply to any frame that you're using. You can only choose a core bonus once, and they're gained every 3 license levels. So once you hit license level 3 is when you're going to get your first core bonus. You could always choose from the GMS list since you have that Everest frame from starting. And then to choose from another manufacturer, you have to have at least 3 license rank with that manufacturer per core bonus, right? So you're getting that first core bonus, say with the Harrison Army, you get your 3 license ranks there, you get your first core bonus, and then when you get to license level 6, you have to take 3 more ranks in either the Harrison Army to get a second core bonus from them, or you can take 3 in another manufacturer to get their core bonus, and then you can mix and match. But they do not have to be sequential license ranks. So you can have ranks 1 through 3 in 1 license, and then 3 ranks in 1 license rank. So the 3 individual ones, as long as it totals 6, you can get the core bonuses. And then last up, we have our talents. Now these are measured in ranks 1 through 3. At license level 0, you're going to start with 3 rank 1 talents, and every time you level up, you can either increase your talent to the next rank or attain a new rank 1 talent. And these talents are going to really decide how you will perform in combat. They are kind of like your fighting styles, so to speak. So you want to pick up talents that can make you either, that big in-your-face heavy brawler, or maybe one who has flight systems and tries to take the high ground, or if you want to be someone that's stealthier, or maybe supplying weapons and support in that way. That's where you want to create pick your talents to kind of fuel the fighting style or the purpose on the battlefield that you're choosing, right? For everything here, as far as like your talents, your license ranks, things like that, where you have to make these choices, the beautiful part of the system is that as you're leveling up and you realize, hey, I'm not using this talent, or I'm not using this license to its full ability, or I'm not really liking the fighting style, or basically not liking the choices I've made, you have the option every time you level up to completely reset your talent. You can reorganize them into completely different talents, or reorganize the rank structure that you've taken. Maybe you want to take a level 3 back to level 1, so you can take a level 1 back to level 3, and vice versa. And as well as your mech frames, if you're not liking the Death's Head frame that you're using and you want to try out the Ice Scander, when you level up, you can get rid of all 3 license ranks from there, apply it to the new one, get that new core bonus that you now have access to, and really not be chained down to one particular frame, and not chained down to the choices you made earlier in your character's career. So it is a very user-friendly system in the sense that, like, there's not, even if you've made a personal mistake and you're like, oh, I actually don't like what I've done here, it is built within the game to basically remake your choices and not be stuck with that. So, all right, well, hopefully this video has been informative and helped you kind of grasp the structures of the mech and made you a little more comfortable and familiar with the options that you have when building, particularly your first mech, right? And if you're a little bit seasoned, maybe I pointed something out that maybe you forgot, didn't quite understand. And if there's anything I got wrong or you want us to expand on, please let us know in the comments down below. And this is your first time watching us, consider subscribing. Again, we've got a lot of good stuff going on, and we love the community that's growing with us, and we want to hear from you and see you all in future videos. But until next time, keep that shield wall strong.